I am so sick of being so addicted to my phone. I recently did a video where I spent a Sunday off of my phone completely, and it felt really good. I don't think it's realistic that I'm going to do that every single week, but I want to involve some kind of change in my routine to change my relationship with my phone, and I was looking at my screen time. My average screen time on my phone is 7 hours a day. Now, I will preface this with saying I work on my phone, and I also know that screen time includes things like maps, music. I think if your phone's unlocked, it logs the music as screen time, phone calls, texting, like things that for me have a bit more intention behind the use of my phone are logging into that 7 hours. So obviously this is like a total usage of being actively on my phone. The things I'm more concerned about is scrolling on social media, jumping from app to app, just staying on my phone when I don't need to be on my phone. However, the 7 hours as a whole kind of surprised me when I looked at how much that is over the course of like a year, a month, a week, like that whole span of time. It's kind of terrifying. I wrote down some numbers. 7 hours a day equates to 49 hours a week, which is 2 out of your 7 days of the week. 210 hours a month, which is 8.5 days. And over the course of a year, being on my phone for an average of 7 hours a day comes to a total of 2,555 hours a year, which is 106 days, which is 29% of my whole year. I hate that so much, and yes, as I said, like some of that is going to be having maps open for navigation, it's going to be being on the phone, it's going to be talking to friends and things, but that, oh god, that's such 106 days a year. I have to change that. I am changing that. I don't want that to be my total screen time, regardless of what I'm using it for. I don't want to feel like I'm as reliant on my phone as I am, and as addicted to my phone as I am. I like watching people replace their screen time with reading, but I think what I want to do is try and sustain something in the long run that's going to reduce my time on my phone. So my goal for this week is to halve that screen time. So cut it in half. I want to see that screen time, the average daily screen time for the whole of this coming week, be about 3 to 3.5 hours max. I hope I can do it. I think I can do it. Obviously, aside from working on my phone, I can cut down a lot of other things that I do, I think, and even work stuff like varies as to how much I need to use my phone for work stuff. So I think I've got a fairly decent chance of being able to give this a shot. I think I need to give it a shot for me because I'm just reaching this point where I just really have this negative feeling with my phone, and I don't feel I need to be on my phone as much, and I feel like my phone's taking me away from being present in the real world and from sitting and doing things that are completely disconnected from my phone. Like, you know, when I sit and read, I always have in the back of my head that my phone's just there. I've started actually sleeping with my phone in a different room to me. I usually bring my phone into my bedroom with me, but I've started leaving it in my lounge, which is making a massive difference because in the evenings, I'm not scrolling on my phone when I'm sat in bed, I'm reading instead. And in the mornings, if I wake up before my alarm, I don't reach for my phone, I reach for my book. I've also started writing morning pages, which is where you write like a stream of just everything you're thinking about for like 2 or 3 pages. I think it's meant to be 3 pages. I've been doing 2 pages just because of time, and like that's just what feels comfortable for me. But I've been doing that every morning where you just write a couple of pages as to like what you're thinking and just keep writing. And the point is that it kind of just brings out like an unconscious stream of thought. And I've been doing that as well instead of checking my phone in the morning. So just generally, I've already been trying to put these habits into place, but I want to consciously see like over the next week that screen time half. So that is the goal for this video. I should tell you what I'm reading. My book isn't here. Let me go grab my book. So I'm reading The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. I am 122 pages in so far. This is set in a world where there are these people that live in this valley, and either side of the valley to the east and the west are different time variations of the same people and the same like environment, and they're kind of like the protectors of the in-between of these two times, and people can come and visit people that have maybe passed away in their time period, or they can't visit them, they can go and observe them basically because they are not allowed to interfere, but they can go between these time periods and or time zone. How do I even word this? How does the blurb word this? It says each tad exists in a different time period 20 years apart from its neighbours, and the only permitted crossings are morning tours when people secretly view the loved ones who have died died, their loved ones who have died in their own time but are still alive in others. We're specifically following a main character in this book who has witnessed something that she shouldn't have necessarily seen, and the kind of snowball effect of what happens after that. So this is what I'm reading. I have already been trying to be on my phone a lot less and have been reading a lot more as a result of that. I felt at the end of April like I was, well, midway through April I felt like I was a bit slumpy, and then I just really started intentionally being on my phone a lot less, and then I picked up my reading pace, funnily enough. So I don't think I was feeling too slumpy. I think I was feeling too hooked on my phone. Which is, again, the running theme. I also have been watching a lot of really interesting videos about switching from digital to analog, and I've been finding it really fascinating because whilst like my reading has always been very much like physical books, and I do like read digitally as well, but I much prefer physical books and having a collection of physical books around me, I've noticed that I'm getting a lot more into that with photography and things at the moment. I actually recently got, so I got myself a little Camp Snap camera, which is an incredibly simple digital camera. However, it emulates the feel and vibe of using a disposable film camera without it being a disposable film camera. So this is kind of bridging the gap a little bit between the digital and the analog, and I do shoot with film cameras as well, but there is obviously quite an expense to doing that. So this is like a nice little middle ground if I just want to take this out with me for the day. You basically can import any of the photos from this onto your phone or computer, but you can't review them at the time of taking them because there is no screen. So it kind of brings it back to the being in the moment when taking the shot and just being able to have the fun of looking back at it at a later point when you get home or whenever you want to review those photos, which I really enjoy. So this is kind of a nice little middle ground for the digital analog switch. And obviously, as I said, I've got the film cameras. I do still shoot a lot on digital just for the nature of like shooting wedding photography and also just anything that I use my phone photography for and things. Like, I still really enjoy shooting digital, but I also like the idea of bringing the analog into it. And this is a nice little middle ground. I'll pop a couple of the photos on screen that I've taken with this. It's by no means the best quality, but it's very fun to shoot with, and it gives that vibe of the disposable cameras type of thing, which then gives me the biggest little hit of nostalgia from my childhood and using those kind of cameras. I watched a really interesting video from a creator called Henry Did It on YouTube recently, and it was talking about making the switch from digital to analog in a couple of different areas of their life. So with their note-taking, timekeeping, photography, and reading. Now, reading, I generally do prefer physical books anyway. I do read digitally, but I'd certainly prefer to have physical books around me, which is probably no surprise when you see my home. But photography, I've obviously spoken about like trying to shift into that a little bit more and kind of balance between digital and analog. Note taking, I always like to have a little notebook with me, like a little pocket notebook, and I like to try and lean more into physical note taking. And it was interesting in this video seeing this creator talk about how your phone kind of guides the note-taking experience with predictive text and things, so it kind of takes the personal intention out of it, which I thought was really interesting. And then timekeeping. I used to always wear a watch, and then I got an Apple Watch and I always wore that, and then two things happened. One, the battery stopped lasting for a whole day, and two, it started to really irritate my skin, and I'm not really sure why. Multiple different straps, just generally I wasn't having a good time with it. So I only wear the Apple Watch when I'm exercising at the gym or either going on like long walks. So I have stopped wearing a watch, and that kind of leads me probably to check my phone more. But it was really interesting because I have always thought my Apple Watch, having a smartwatch, made me go on my phone less. And it does, because you know, when you get a notification, you can just see it on your watch as opposed to picking up your phone and maybe unlocking your phone and then maybe jumping around a couple of apps. When you check that notification, you could just see it on your watch. But actually, it means you're always connected, like you are always in. And whenever you're experiencing something that's just in the real world, and your watch buzzes, it takes you out of it for a second. And I thought that was interesting. So I really want to get a battery put back into my watch, like one of my watches that I used to wear before getting a smartwatch, and maybe get back into wearing a watch again so I'm not checking the time on my phone all the time. Just generally, I have been thinking a lot about this, as you can probably tell from the length of this introduction. I am halving my phone screen time. I am being less reliant on my phone. I'd like to lean into the analog more. Let's see how I get on over this week of trying to halve my phone screen time. It has been a week of doing this challenge and trying to halve my daily screen time on my phone. I have had a really interesting week. We're going to talk about everything that I've learned. We're going to talk about the stats, what apps I use the most, what my actual average daily screen time was, and just generally my overall experience of doing this, because I didn't expect it to go quite the direction that it has gone in. So let's look at some stats. First off, this is the week that appalled me. This is the week that started this all off. I was averaging 7 hours and 15 minutes a day on my phone. That was so high, I hate that so much, and that was what made me want to start this challenge. So I subsequently then, halfway through the following week, had an average screen time of 3 hours and 42 minutes. My week looked a little bit more like this. That was from me deciding halfway through the week I wanted to start reducing my screen time. And then we come to last week, where I actually actively, from Monday to Sunday, tried to halve my screen time. So the stats are a little bit skewed, because really the average screen time of 3 hours and 42 minutes was me halving my 7 hours daily average screen time. But for like the last week, I just wanted to make it an active, consistent choice to try and get below 3.5 hours of an average daily screen time. And I have achieved it, and then some. I have got an average daily screen time of 1 hour and 39 minutes, which I am so pleased with myself for. That is a total of 4 hours and 12 minutes spent on socials, which I think groups in WhatsApp and Instagram from looking at my most used apps. There's 1 hour and 12 minutes of entertainment and 56 minutes of travel. I am a little bit salty that it counts maps in this, because usually if your phone's locked, it doesn't count it, and my phone was locked, but it was connected to my Apple CarPlay, so we'll just pretend that 52 minutes of this screen time didn't exist, because it was literally just navigation whilst I was driving somewhere. But as a breakdown, I spent 2 hours and 19 minutes on WhatsApp, 1 hour and 26 on Instagram, Spotify is 1 hour and 6 minutes, Maps 56 minutes, and then everything else kind of whittles down to like under 30 minutes on each app over the course of the week. Apps like WhatsApp I don't mind being a higher usage one, because my best friend lives in Scotland and we communicate with each other via voice notes on WhatsApp, so I always know that one's going to be a little bit higher. And Instagram, I'm actually really pleased with myself for getting that down to just 1 hour and 26 minutes like over the whole week, because I had a couple of things that I had to do work-wise on Instagram last week that meant I knew that I felt like that was going to be a higher screen time than it was, but I actually, because I was spending more time on it for work, I tried to combat that by spending less time on it just scrolling, and actually I reduced the need to want to scroll. Like, I didn't really feel that I wanted to be on the app as much, and if I did, I would look at it on my desktop, which was a lot more intentional for me. I would sit and look at it for like 5 minutes, go through everything I needed to, and then I would get off of it. It wasn't like I was staying sat on it like if I was checking it on my phone. So I think that that's something I've learned, is that maybe with the locations I find more addictive to stay on when I'm on my phone, the apps that are more addictive, if I look at them on the desktop, I tend to just go in, look at what I meant to look at, and then leave again and don't stay and doom scroll. So that was something that was really helpful. I think overall, I'm really pleased with this. Like, this is a total screen time of 11 hours and 34 minutes. Last week I was on total screen time of 25 hours and 59 minutes. And the week before it was 50 hours and 51 minutes. So I have reduced that way, way more than I thought I would. And I am really proud of myself for doing that, because I have proved to myself I don't need to be sat on my phone all the time. I'm going to pop a little screenshot of today on it as well, or this week, which is a daily average of 1 hour and 3 minutes so far already. So I'm continuing this beyond this challenge, because honestly everything I've learned from this has been so impactful for me and made such a difference to the way I think about not only my relationship with my phone, but my relationship with other elements of my life and digital versus analog. And it's just been a really interesting learning experience to do this and see how it changes the way that I interact with things in my daily life. So I've written a little list of things that have kind of come off of the back of doing this. First off, I've been watching a lot of video essays and things of people talking about doing similar things and digital detoxing and trying to spend less time on their phones and using alternative ways of doing things that their phones would have provided for them. And yes, phones make everything more convenient, but they also take away like the autonomy of choice with a lot of things that we do. And I thought that that was really interesting, because a lot of the video essays I was watching were talking about brain rot and how we go onto a social media platform and we see what the algorithm gives us, and we just consume that, and we're not really choosing, we're not actively choosing to watch that thing or engage with that thing. All right, we're choosing to open the app and we're choosing to stay in it, but the algorithm kind of lulls us into that and keeps us watching something that we necessarily wouldn't have actually picked to watch, yet here we are watching it anyway. It's a bit of a cycle of where our choices actually are within an algorithm, but it's interesting that that's kind of where the brain rot term comes from, because you are not really choosing, you're not really engaging with what you're watching. Whereas what I was finding is that I was using social, when I did use it, much more intentionally. I was going onto an app and I was looking for the creators I like consuming the content from the best, because I knew I wasn't going to be on the app for very long. So I was going out and seeking that kind of content specifically with the intention of wanting to enjoy something from that creator. Social media isn't a bad thing. It's just become such an addictive thing. Like, it's a space for people to be able to share their art and everything they enjoy and their passions and have community. And I love that for it. I especially love the community that I found myself being a part of in my time on social media. But it's somewhere that is designed to keep us in the platform, keep us on the phone, keep us in the app. And that, I think, was one of the biggest things to come out of it for me, was seeing the intention of where I did spend my time when I was on my phone changing, and feeling like I was getting more positive interactions out of it than just mindlessly doom scrolling. As a result of that, less brain rot is the second point I have written down, which is always a nice feeling. I also felt like I had more time back. I wasn't picking up my phone at times of the day where I would have normally just sat and scrolled. I felt like I was more present. I was able to use that time in different ways. I was able to consider in the future how I might like to use that time and develop, like, maybe new hobbies and skills and things, and just freeing up hours and hours and hours a day that I would have been on my phone. Really powerful. I actually did a couple of things the week just past to try and remove myself from the need for my phone in general. One of those things was getting a watch battery put in my old watch, which just has made me so happy just having the watch back on my wrist, because I've been using an Apple Watch for like 5 or 6 years, but I think I said in this video already that I don't wear it unless I go to the gym anymore because of various different reasons. I basically haven't been wearing a watch as a substitute for that, so I've either been checking my phone for the time or have had my Apple Watch on at the gym, but generally as a day-to-day I don't have a watch on, so I got myself my battery changed in my watch. I also went and discovered my iPod. I found my iPod Nano and it has a little bit of juice in it. I bought myself a charging cable. I put some music back on it that was like ages old on my iTunes, which is now part of Apple Music and still sits as iTunes separately, so you can still buy the music for these. And I just had a little bit of a throwback session, so much so that you might be seeing something in a video coming soon where this has kind of taken hold of me in a little bit of a different way and has unlocked some new music listening enjoyment for me. So this has been really fun as well, but also just generally sitting and reading more and enjoying that time more. We can be so distracted by our phones constantly, and the constant buzzing and the constant need to check something that doesn't even need to be checked. And I think that really distracts me from reading so much, and it gets so in my head because when I was a child, I didn't have these distractions. I just sat and read. And as an adult, I kind of stress myself out thinking, why can't I just do that? Why am I not sitting and reading and enjoying reading in the same way I did when I was a child? Obviously I still love it and still enjoy it, but there's so many distractions. My attention span is nowhere near what it used to be. So for me, it's been bringing it back and reminding myself, I love reading, I love sitting and enjoying a book. And when I remove the distractions, I will sit and read and enjoy that book for just as long as I did when I was a child. It's just the bloody phones that are the distractions. So that's also been a huge, huge win for me. And also the kind of final point has been making me think more about what my phone should be in my life and how my phone should fit into my life, rather than control my life. So much of what we do is controlled by algorithms and technology and all these things that are designed to just trap us into their platform and their systems. And it's so much of what I do in my daily life because I work in social media, and I think I've kind of defaulted to like, oh, but I work in social media, so of course I'm going to be on my phone more. And when I look at the apps and break down the apps that I use, it really actually isn't that much time of my work that I'm sat on my phone. It's more of my free time when I don't need to be sat on my phone. And that is where I feel like my phone's been controlling me. I think that there's certainly things that I don't mind so much. Like if I looked at my screen time and it was all Spotify, I'm fine with that. Like that's fine. Same with something like maps or phone calls. Like I don't mind if there's an intention behind it, and I use my phone so much to listen to music on and use it so much for like communication with my friends and community. But it's just it's the intention, isn't it? And I think that's the thing that I have learned from the overall doing this, is that the phone doesn't control my life. The phone is an asset and should aid my life and help me in ways, and is a great asset for that, but as long as it doesn't control me. And I need to have the intention behind why I open my phone and why I pick up my phone and why I use it. So this has been a really, really interesting learning experience, and something that I am going to continue doing because I think it's had too much of a great benefit to ignore it, and I don't want to just go back to losing so much of my time and also my attention to my phone. Like I don't like the fact that it has reduced my attention span. I already have ADHD. I don't need the pressure of my phone adding into that and just causing even more chaos in my brain. I've been really interested by the concept of a dumb phone, which is basically people buying much older or simpler phones, like flip phones or like old little Nokia phones, and just having those as phones for emergencies, and like if you need to call, text or whatever, that's there, but it takes away the social media element and it takes away the reliance that we have on our phones. I really like the idea of that, and I do wonder if it's something I will try in the future, because you can get these phones for relatively inexpensive. You can put a pay-as-you-go SIM in them. And I would certainly still have my smartphone, and I would probably still use my smartphone like 80-90% of the time. But on the days where I just don't, and I don't want to do that, it's nice to have that there as an option, as in case of emergencies. Like if I go out for a nice walk and I just don't want to bring my smartphone with me, but I still want to have a phone, it's nice to have that option there. And I think like looking at the iPod and things and being able to bring my music away from my phone, because honestly, every time I think about reducing when I have my phone with me, it's always the music. That is always where my thought goes first, and I'm okay with that because I love listening to music. Music has always been a massive part of my life. I have no problem using technology to allow me to listen to music, even if it's like, you know, out and about and things. I don't mind doing that. So that's always what I've come to in my head. But this, and generally external music players, I already love listening to records when I'm in my home and things as well. Like external music players I think are going to be quite helpful for me. Something I also got last week is a letter writing set, which I am really excited to use. Haven't written any of them yet, but I really like the idea of being able to communicate with people through letters. Obviously, like still communicating with people digitally, but I think this is really nice and has, I'm gonna say the word intention again, has a lot more intention behind it as well, which is lovely. I think that's the theme of this video, isn't it? It's intention. There is so much control we can have over how we use our technology, and yeah, I think we just need to remember that it's an asset to our lives, not the thing that controls us. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I have really enjoyed making this, and I'm so glad that I did make it, and I think this is going to be something that didn't just impact me for the week just gone of the challenge, but something that continues to impact me going forward, because I need it to change. I have just reached this point of being absolutely utterly sick of being so hooked on my smartphone, and that is changing, and it already has started to change. So thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.